These are things I don't want to happen in Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. Now let's start this off with what I think would be the single biggest mistake the movie could make, which is killing off Gwen Stacy in this movie. Listen, the first two films have been building on this theme of breaking away from the canon and the story that everybody tells you you're supposed to fit into, and obviously we know the story of Gwen and Spider-Man is that it never ends well. And I think it would simply just feel like pointless shock value that's going against the themes of these movies if you kill off Gwen Stacy, even if it's like some grand sacrifice to save Miles or everybody else. I still don't think it would really feel like it plays off well. Now with that being said, I also think if Gwen does stay alive and her and Miles don't end up together at the end of the movie, honestly just throw out the entire trilogy. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but I can definitely see the route where they go like, oh, we have to close the portal between our dimensions, or we have to be together for the better of the universe, or blah blah blah. No, I don't care. I want these two to end up together and live happily ever after. If they use this movie to introduce a live action Miles Morales into the MCU or the Sony universe, I think that would be another major mistake that would just completely ruin these movies. Now listen, I really want to see a live action Miles Morales Spider-Man. I think him showing up in the MCU by like Spider-Man 5 or 6 and kind of being mentored by Tom Holland Spider-Man would be really cool. Or even if Sony wanted to make Miles Morales the Spider-Man of their Sony universe to finally give all their villains a Spider-Man to fight, I think that could also work too. But what I don't want to happen is them to introduce a live action Miles through the multiverse in this movie. Or what would be even worse is if you somehow had this version of Miles Morales go through some portal or something at the end and he ends up in like the MCU or Sonyverse. That would just completely ruin these movies, honestly. These are movies that are completely just reimagining animated movies and changing them in the minds of so many people that have been closed off to animated films before. So I feel like doing that is kind of a slap into the face of all the work you've been putting in. Be like, actually animation isn't that great of a medium. We need to transition them into the real medium of live action. This one might seem like a smaller detail, but I would still be super disappointed if we don't get a comic book style introduction for Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099. We've gotten it for pretty much every other new Spider-Man. And obviously because of the events that unfold later in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it makes sense why we didn't get his when we first got introduced to this character, but I really think it would be cool to start the movie off with his introduction. Another huge mistake this movie can make is having Miles immediately forgive people like Peter B. Parker and Gwen, because yes, while they weren't necessarily trying to harm them, I still think they were in the wrong, and Miles has the right to be very mad at them. Like I said, yes, I want Miles and Gwen to end up together by the end of the movie, but I don't think this should be immediately resolved. Like, I would love to see Miles just trying to either get away from them or honestly fighting like Gwen, Peter B. Parker, Spider-Man Noir, and all of those at the beginning of the film. I think that would be a really dope scene. And simply just have all of them actually earn back the trust and friendship of Miles by maybe helping him out of the other dimension that he's in. Maybe they help him defeat Spot or something, but anyways, they should not be immediately forgiven. Another huge point is I think the runtime of this movie, I think it should at the minimum be the same exact length as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, or hopefully like 2 hours and 35 minutes or something. I think that would be the perfect sweet spot. Listen, I know that's a long time for an animated movie, especially one with this many different styles and crazy fight scenes. But hey, we know they're not in a rush in any way, shape, or form to get this movie out. We have no imminent release date. It's probably at least like 2 to 3 years out at this point. So honestly, just take as long as you need if you're just going to give us a great epic conclusion that's super long. Honestly, I want to get greedy and ask for like a 3-hour movie, but I think that's a little unrealistic. So I'll just be happy as long as it's longer than Across the Spider-Verse. Do not go back to the 2-hour runtime of Into the Spider-Verse though. Another massive mistake that this movie can make is if they don't go as hard on the soundtrack as they did in the first two movies. Obviously the second one I think is just on a different level, even though the first one has some amazing songs. But Metro is just absolutely incredible, and he's so diverse as a producer. I think they should really bring him back onto the next one. I would love to see some of the same artists like A$AP Rocky come back. I think they fit this style perfectly, and like I said, Metro can do a ton of different styles. It wouldn't feel stale. If they do want to bring in a new producer, or maybe at least for a couple different songs, even if not to do the entire album like Metro did, here's some artists I think would be really great to work on it. First of all is Pierre Bourne. If you didn't know, he works with Playboi Carti on a lot of different songs, and I think his style would have a really light and bouncy vibe for a lot of the happier moments of the movie. Clams Casino is the second one on this list. He worked on a ton of the old A$AP songs. He has a super psychedelic sound. You probably know him from the song Nights Like This that's super popular right now. He produced that. I absolutely love his songs. Every time I see like a Spider-Verse edit on TikTok to one of his songs, I absolutely levitate out of my seat, so he would be a perfect fit. And the last one is 40. If you don't know, he works on pretty much all of the greatest Drake songs. Like I said, I don't think any of these guys would be a great one-on-one replacement to Metro Boomin, but I think if you had all of them do like 1 to 2 songs in addition to Metro doing most of the soundtrack, it could be really cool and add to the soundtrack. I know this one sounds dark, but I think not killing off either Jeff or Rio, as obviously Miles' dad or mom, would be a major mistake in this movie. Hear me out. It's not like I want to see either of them die. I just think for the narrative narrative and everything that's been being set up, especially in the last one. Obviously, they're setting up that it seems like Jeff is going to be killed by Spot. But I honestly think that's a bait and switch and that we're going to end up seeing Rio die. But either way, I think one of their deaths would be a super pivotal and emotional moment for Miles' character development and could ultimately result in a super powerful moment in the film. So yes, it would be sad, but it would be so effective. I think at least one of these needs to be killed off in the movie. Not gonna lie, this one makes no sense. I'm just kind of down bad for Black Cat, so just throw her into this movie too, even though it would make absolutely no sense. It would still be peak cinema. But the last one that could absolutely ruin this movie is if we somehow just never end up getting this thing because it just stays in production forever. Obviously, that is like 99% unlikely to happen. We're gonna get this movie at some point because of how big of a success the first two were. But I'd be lying to you if I said that the thought didn't creep into my mind sometimes that, hey, maybe we're never actually gonna get this, or it's gonna be like 10 years away or something crazy like that. This is the second video I've done in this series where I'm talking about all the things that can go wrong in upcoming movies. Click down below to watch my video where I did this for Spider-Man 4 just yesterday. Let me know in the comments below any other upcoming movies you want to see me do this for. I'm thinking Sonic 3 and Moana 2 for some upcoming releases.